2 months after the prophecy of Nostradamus, known to happen in July 1999, Masashi Kishimoto, then 24 years old, began the series Naruto on Weekly Shonen Jump, published by Shueisha. While the mega-hit manga Rurouni Kenshin, created by Nobuhiro Atsuki, came to its last chapter, Naruto, which later became a very popular manga with more than 200 million copies sold worldwide, was born in the very same issue of the manga magazine, Jump. In addition to looking back on the 15 years of serialization, the soon-to-be-released blockbuster, The Last Naruto the Movie, will also be discussed in part 2 of the interview with Masashi Kishimoto. Please note that there are spoilers regarding the ending of the original story. Within these 15 years, the hardest time was right after the start of serialization. Completing one chapter within 7 days during the weekly serialization was a cycle like hell, which he became physically overwhelmed.
Starting a new serialization was a happy moment to begin with, but my physical condition was getting weak every single week. Every time after I finished the script, I had a fever and threw up everything I ate. Can I really make it? I began to think. My body was getting worse, and after I got a severe fever and went to a hospital, the doctor said, after reading some kind of report, "You know what? Your cells are dying. Either way, you should get some rest." Your cells are dying was something I was told for the first time, and I was really shocked. But taking a week off was never an option for a weekly series. It was the times when it was impossible for a fresh manga creator who had just started a series to take a week off. The series would be cancelled in that case. But probably my editor knew if nothing would be done, I was going to die. I was able to rest for a short while. At that time, other writers weren't saying anything, but I guessed they might be thinking, why was this newbie given time off? Nonetheless, since then, everyone began to be able to take some time off little by little. So, in some sense, I think I paved the way for a new trend. At that time, actually, I was about 15 kilos lighter than now.
From then onwards, Mr. Kishimoto gradually was grabbing the rhythm of weekly serialization. And at the same time, he started to feel the positive response from readers' feedback towards his work.
I believe it was the second time I got the color cover pages. I remembered my editor faxing the script and saying, "I'm so happy, you got the first in the readers' poll." I used to not pay much attention to the results of the manga popularity survey, but after all the troubles and stressful moments which we have overcome together with my editor since the beginning, I was really happy seeing the look of joy on his face. After that, I myself got married and my life was getting more stable, so moments that I broke down were getting less often.
Within these 15 years of serialization, there have been significant changes in the social conditions. Couldn't the word Naruto be a reflection of the real-world situation? Such comments have been heard among the fans from the past. The existence of 5 great countries, the situation that each country is armed with a tailed beast, a magical beast with tremendous power, which is used as a weapon, and the organization which is trying to destroy the world balance, Akatsuki. Naruto, who is determined to resolve by communicating and understanding his opponent instead of using force. There are many aspects of the story, including the historical connection, that make you wonder.
About the overlap with the real-world situation, that could be true, but it would look strange if it is too much, so I didn't really focus on that part. I'm in Japan now, and I have no idea what's going on in other countries. Well, I'm not Naruto or Sasuke, but I do think there are things that you can't judge if you don't understand your opponent, or if people don't understand each other. I was raised in Okayama, and I also went to the atomic bomb dome in Hiroshima. After seeing the place, it made me think a lot. Taking my grandfather as an example, he has his own opinions and feelings about the war. But certain feelings change as generations change. After all, I tried not to draw in any way that made the story too realistic.
It is not just the social situation. The changes that happened to Mr. Kishimoto himself have also been reflected in his works. There was a scene which made Mr. Kishimoto become so emotional that he couldn't help but burst into tears while he was drawing. It is the moment when Naruto met his late mother and learned the secrets of his birth. Let's check the scene together!
ごめんね。あなたを九尾の器にしてしまった。私たちの重荷を背負わせてしまった。あなたと一緒に生きてあげられなかった。愛情を注いであげられなかった。
謝らねえでくれよ。俺は人中力だから昔は辛い時もあったけど、父ちゃんも母ちゃんも別に恨んだことなんてね。そりゃ親の愛情ってのは正直よく分かんなかった。父ちゃんも母ちゃんもずっといなかったからよ。なんとなくしか。でも今は分かる。自分の命を俺のためにくれた父ちゃんと母ちゃん、俺の器にも9秒より先に愛情が入ってるって分かったから。だから俺も幸せだ。父ちゃんと母ちゃんの子でよかった。
みなと聞いてる？私たちの思いちゃんとこの子に届いてたよ。ナルト、私を母にしてくれてありがとう。みなとを父にしてくれてありがとう。私たちのもとに生まれてきてくれて本当にありがとう。
Naruto's expression when he realized his mother, Kushina's love, made me cry even though I was the one who drew it. Since Naruto has been such a poor kid until that moment, known as an orphan since birth, not knowing the love from his parents and being treated as a troublemaker in the village. It was not only about social situation. When I had a new member in my own family after my child was born, I understood more about Naruto's feelings even better, and I could also begin looking at him from the parents' perspective. At the beginning, I didn't think much about the setting of Naruto being an orphan, but when I became a parent, I could not stand the feeling that the child did not know how much parents care about their children. It would make me so frustrated if the child could not sense that, and I couldn't let the story go on without expressing such feeling. There is no doubt that Naruto is a typical battle manga which inherits the traditions of Shonen Jump mangas. On the other hand, it is different from conventional shonen manga. One may say it has paved a completely different path as a non-typical shonen manga. As mentioned a while ago, since halfway of the story, Naruto's attempt to bring peace through conversation and forgiveness, instead of bare force, is one of the examples. In the well-received Pain arc, Naruto had a conversation with Pain, who killed his master Jiraiya and eventually reached reconciliation with his enemy. Such approach is a taboo. It was something you wouldn't try in shonen manga. First, it may be related to how people perceive ninja, but Naruto is different from a typical ninja manga. Dressed in orange and crying out his name loud, "I'm Naruto!" It's more like kabuki. Therefore, it is way different from the typical shinobi, which relates to assassination or devoting one's life for the sake of the Lord. I express the idea as people who can endure and overcome upon all things, and that in itself may not be like the typical shonen manga. That's why even when there is grudge and resentment during wartime, I wanted to portray a ninja who endure and believe in the future, hoping that things would work out someday. In the Pain's Assault arc, it could be written in the way characters taking vengeance, but then the cycle of hatred will simply continue. Someone has to break it. Thinking why things would happen that way and understanding your opponent is what I wanted to write about. It was hard to do that in a teenage manga magazine. Would it really work? I wondered a lot.
Such philosophy would of course has a great deal to do with the ending of the epic story. While it is decided that Sasuke and Naruto would fight in the end, and the story would end as the fight is over. What is important here is Sasuke's position, not as an enemy who hates his village and his former friends. This time, he fights Naruto as his best friend, and in the end, their two fists form the seal of reconciliation.
In the end, they will fight each other, but make peace eventually. As this was decided, Naruto had to become a character who can forgive others. Allowing Naruto to experience forgiveness beforehand was the purpose of the Pain's Assault arc. And due to this, it would no longer be enough for Naruto just to defeat his enemies. To put it in other words, even though this is a battle manga, Naruto cannot just simply beat up some living enemies. That was why enemies that are brought back by Edo Tensei from the dead or enemies made up of plants were created.
Talking about the ending, not only the battles, but also the love affairs between Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke was revealed in the last chapter, where voices of surprises or satisfaction were raised by the fans. The soon-to-be-released movie, The Last Naruto the Movie, will reveal the story during the blank period between Chapter 699, End of Shinobi War, Reconciliation between Naruto and Sasuke, and Chapter 700, a dozen years after. Mr. Kishimoto, the story supervisor, calls it a film about love. One of the scenes that was placed great importance on since the planning stage was the dialogue scene between Naruto and Sakura.
This movie portrays the world 2 years after the war. To be specific, it's a story about how Naruto and Hinata end up together. Or you can also say it's the farewell story between Naruto and his first love interest, Sakura. All the doubts, confusions, and fuzzy feeling after reading the last chapter will sure be resolved.
Here is the trailer of the movie. Let's have a look.
この世界は絶対に終わらせない。
奇跡を生むのは俺たちの意志だ。行くぞ。
覚えてるか、あの時のこと。俺はお前に伝えなきゃなんねえことがある。待っててくれ。
生きて帰れるかわからねえ。師匠の形見は必ず守れ。あいつがいないなら俺が守るしかないだろう。
ずっと一人で生きてきた。けど仲間がいて守るべきものにやっと気づいた。だから俺は何度でも
ナルトナルト君
The Last Naruto the Movie.
It's about time, and the two-part interview is coming to an end. Just one last question. In the Weekly Shonen Jump, which the final chapter of Naruto was published, the cover illustration of One Piece of the same issue was inserted with a lot of references to Naruto. And that created a great buzz among fans. While both of you have been the leading Jump manga titles in the 2000s, how did you feel when you read the messages from your old ally, Mr. Eiichiro Oda?
I was really happy. I immediately messaged thank you through line to Mr. Oda. Not to mention the cover illustration, the author comments at the back of the magazine, which he wrote, "My friend and rival of the same age," was amazing, and it was exactly what I was thinking while drawing Naruto the whole time. I'm really glad. Am I aware of One Piece? Sure I do. It's One Piece. Nothing more need to be said. If there were no One Piece, if it weren't for the rivalry with Mr. Oda, Naruto would never have reached such level. Without a doubt, Naruto is special to me, but so is One Piece as well.